This has been an interesting week. I got bored a couple of days ago and sent out an email to all the brothers in Kairos that included a video link with our Bible study last Sunday and talked a little bit about how I was not very supportive of social distancing and wearing masks and having our liberties taken away while we graciously went along with that. And I guess not surprisingly got a lot of negative feedback about how I was so irresponsible and so willing to let others die while I ran around acting like a macho dude. And as I thought about that, that gave me a subject for this week. And that subject is fear. Before I talk about fear, let us start off with a prayer, because it has been an interesting week, and I think we need to pull God back into our daily lives. Dear Lord, just while we've been sitting there this morning, I've watched the sun come out and the clouds come in, and now the sun is back out again, and it's a beautiful day. I've sat here and watched the hysteria on TV and all the things we should be scared of. Sometimes we'll have a steak and potatoes in the evening, sometimes a beer. Last night I was eating shrimp chowder. Just terrible, terrible way to live. My neighbors are scared to go outside. I rarely see anyone without a mask anymore. People are not going to work. We're living in fear. And I'm not sure what we're living in fear of. I pray that you are with us, that as we've been taught all of our lives, that you are in control. You know what is going on. You know what is going to happen. And you know that you are the one that we need to turn to. I pray that you're with us. I pray that you will help protect those who are among the infected. I hope that you will help bring our leaders to their senses and help us to find restoration to a normal way of life, whatever the word normal means. But my life is in your hands. Your direction is all I need. Your desires are all I want to fulfill. I pray all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. The subject is really fear as it's discussed in the Bible.
Here's Bert.
Right now we're living in a time of fear. Until February of this year, 2020, we might have felt fear of numerous things, such as fear of the division of our government, fear because of problems within our families, maybe fear over our health or the health of a loved one, and on and on. These fears, however, are generally internal. They're fears that we all harbor. They're fears that we create for ourselves. They're fears that to a great extent we deal with and control on a daily basis. In February, however, things began to change, at least in the United States. We were confronted with a wave of fear, a fear of disease, of COVID-19, created by endless, unrelenting, 24-hour-a-day media hysteria. We're forced to live with a fear of a disease that was going to kill millions of us around the world. As the hysteria amplified, we were told to hide, to separate, to cease going to work, to stay away from other people. We were told that there were no defenses, no vaccines, no medicines, no protective gear. We were told that masks would not work, that hospitals would be overwhelmed, that the nation would break down. As the days and weeks went by, we were told that we knew little, that we had little, that the only means of survival we had was to shelter in place, to limit our exposure to other people. We were told not to work, not to gather. We were banned from any kind of contact with one another, any kinds of physical relationships whatsoever. And that continues. It hasn't changed in the last 4 or 5 weeks. The Bible, however, only mentions 2 kinds of fear. The first is a beneficial fear, and it's to be encouraged. The second type of fear is a detriment, and we have to overcome that. That first type of fear, that fear that needs to be encouraged, is fear of the Lord. This type of fear doesn't necessarily mean to be afraid of something. Rather, it means to be in reverential awe of God, to have a reverence for His power and glory. However, it's also a respect for His wrath and His anger. I mean, you got to remember, this is a God that at one time decided He'd had enough, and everybody was going swimming, and He drowned everyone except Noah and his family. In other words, the fear of the Lord is a total acknowledgement of all that God is, and that comes from knowing Him and knowing His attributes. Fear of the Lord brings with it many blessings and many benefits. It is the beginning of wisdom and leads to good understanding. Psalm 111 verse 10 says that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and those who practice it have a good understanding. His praise endures forever. Only fools despise wisdom and discipline. There may be some interesting parallels there and with today. Our challenge today seems to be identifying what is wisdom and discipline. Proverbs 1 verse 7 says that fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. But furthermore, fear of the Lord leads to life, rest, peace, and contentment. Proverbs 19:23 says that fear of the Lord leads to life, and whoever has it rests satisfied. He will not be visited by harm. According to Proverbs 14:27, fear of the Lord is the fountain in life, and one may turn away from the snares of death. Fear of God provides a place of security and safety for us, according to Proverbs 14:26. Thus one can see that fearing God should be encouraged. However, the second type of fear mentioned in the Bible is not beneficial at all. This is the spirit of fear mentioned in 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. A spirit of fearfulness and timidity does not come from God. Nowhere does God tell us to live in fear. However, sometimes we are afraid. Sometimes this spirit of fear overcomes us. And to overcome it, we just need to trust in God and love God completely. Personally, right now, I look around at many of my fellow Christians, those fellow Christians that I always thought to be true believers, and I'm beginning to wonder if they believe. Do they trust in God? Do they believe in the love and the protection of Jesus Christ? And I don't know. It's like we very easily have given up some of our basic rights concerning religion in this country. And I wonder if we're doing the right thing. According to 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. No one's perfect, and God knows this. That's why He has liberally sprinkled encouragement against fear throughout the Bible. I mean, if you go through the Bible, it says do not fear 100 times, over and over. It tells us not to fear. Beginning in the book of Genesis and continuing right through the book of Revelation, God reminds us to fear not. For example, Isaiah 41:10 encourages us, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God and I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Often we fear the future and what will become of us. But Jesus reminds us that God cares for the birds of the air, so how much more will he provide for his children? Matthew 10:31 says, "Fear not, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows." Just these few verses cover many different types of fear. God tells us not to be afraid of being alone. He tells us not to being afraid of being too weak, of not being heard, of lacking physical necessities. These admonishments continue throughout the Bible, covering many different aspects of the spirit of fear. It's interesting that in Psalm 56, verse 11, the psalmist writes, "In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" This is an awesome testimony to the power of trusting in God. Look at what's happened to us in the last 4 weeks. Did God do any of that? No, God didn't do anything. This is nothing more than man trying to dictate the future as a man. This is trusting in man. We're supposed to be trusting in God. Yeah, I look around the world today, and granted, it's a look that's limited by what the media says. It's a look limited by my experiences throughout life. It's a look limited by the responses of those in government and those around me. I have to wonder how many truly believe in God, how many truly place their lives in his hands, how many trust in him to know what he is doing, how many trust him to help overcome their fear. You know, I've talked a little bit in the past about, there's 2 or 3 questions I ask before I go out every day, and I go out every day somewhere. First question, and I looked that up on the internet, is how many people in Currituck County have come down with COVID-19? 2? 2? How many have died? 0? There's roughly 30,000 people in this county right now. So that means the odds of me encountering either one of those 2 are about 1 in 15,000. And they're probably in quarantine, so the odds are 0. There's no chance I'm going to come across another person with COVID-19. Now, the reality is, I probably am sitting in a room with 2 or 3 that have already had it and don't even know it. Because most of us seem to not demonstrate any symptoms. We get the disease, it gets into our bodies, maybe we get a runny nose, maybe we cough for a couple days and it's gone. Now, it was allergy season last month, and I'll guarantee I went through a lot of days where I was sneezing and coughing and had a runny nose. And I wondered, boy did I wonder. But those were in the days when millions were still going to die, and I was wondering if I was one of them. Well, it didn't happen. And here we are a month later in Currituck County. 2, none have died. And I wonder what all the hullabaloo is all about. That may not be fair. In Psalm 56:11, the psalmist wrote, "In God I trust." We live in a nation whose motto is, "In God we trust." Do we? Do we really trust in God? If so, why aren't we in church? Why aren't we out experiencing fellowship with a few common sense precautions? Why are we not using common sense under God to deal with today's challenges? If we believe, why are we scared? If we truly believe in God we trust, why are we not trusting in him? Why do our government leaders fail to pray in public? Why do they fail to acknowledge him? Why do they bow down to so-called scientists who during the past 3 months have said, this disease doesn't pass from person to person. This disease is not transmitted through the air. Masks will not help protect you. Millions will die. Our medical system is breaking down. There are not enough masks. There are not enough ventilators. There are not enough gloves. We don't have face shields. We don't have sufficient tests. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have any medicines that will help moderate the disease. We don't know the death rate. We don't know how many people have the disease. I do know one thing there's a shortage of: toilet paper. That seems to go on day after day after day. And it goes on and on and on. Science proves every day that it is inadequate and it's not in charge. God's in charge. This is simply another case of man trying to control God rather than simply believing and allowing God to live in us and us in Him. Regardless of what happens, the psalmist will trust in God because he knows and understands the power of God. The key to overcoming fear, then, is total and complete trust in God. Trusting God is a total refusal to give in to fear. It's a turning to God even in the darkest times and trusting Him to make things right. This trust comes from knowing God and knowing that He is good. Remember Job, the guy that had the darkest of experiences with God. When he was going through his most difficult trials, he said, "Though He will slay me, yet I will trust in Him." Job 13:15. Even though God thought he was fixing to die, he still trusted in God. Once we've learned to put our trust in God, we'll no longer be afraid of the things that come against us. We'll be like the psalmist who said with confidence, "Let all who take refuge in You be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread Your protection over them, that those who love Your name may rejoice in You." Psalms 5:11. Put down your fears. Take reasonable precautions. Use common sense. Pray each day. Let God rule your lives, not fear. That may sound personal in a lot of ways, because there are a lot of people caught up in this right now. I mean, my wife and daughter go to the store every night at 9 o'clock looking for their brand of paper towels and their brand of toilet paper. And if it's not there, they're back again the next night. I guess they're living in fear that we're going to run out of Cottonelle. And Charmin's not good enough. I don't understand that kind of fear, but it's out there. I was sitting there talking today that I noticed on Fox this morning that there's fixing to be a pork shortage. The restaurants aren't buying enough pork, and now they're going to start slaughtering the pigs, and 3 weeks from now we'll be running out of sausage and bacon. Now for us rednecks, that's going to be a terrible crime. That is going to be a crime. And I'm already praying about Southern Packing having enough sausage and pork when I run down there tomorrow. It's just the kind of age we live in. You know, Brian and I drove over to Raleigh the other day for a protest over there about being told to stay in. I was kind of surprised there weren't more people there. You know, while we were there were more police than there were protesters. But the Capitol was beautiful that day, so we walked around, took a few pictures, and watched a few dissenters drive by in their Cadillacs saying, "Don't take away our liberties." I thought liberties were Jeeps. It's an interesting time, and I don't know what the future holds. I know we shouldn't be scared like this. I know the odds of us coming across anyone that will contaminate us are probably very, very low. When I told the people in Kairos the other day that I was kind of going easy on the social distancing, I was really surprised by the negativity I got back. I had brothers in Kairos that I thought were true believers send me emails that said, "How can you risk our lives?" Well, I haven't been to Virginia Beach, hadn't planned on going to Virginia Beach, and I don't think I'm risking anyone's life up there. While we're down here, I'm going around the county photographing the empty businesses. I photographed the checkpoints across the Wright Memorial Bridge. I drove by the churches on Sunday and photographed the empty parking lots. I've been to schools, and I've photograph the empty schools in the middle of the week. Oh, that is showing a lot of fear. I look at church and I go, why can't we have the 10 people limit in the sanctuary and another 10 people being instructed by a lay leader in the fellowship hall, and maybe another 10 people by a lay speaker down in the child care building, or different rooms? But why can't we have 30 or 40 people on the grounds at one time? Why are our churches empty? It doesn't make sense to me. Right now we're videoing this in a home, and we gather in a different home, just 3 of us, because it's what we're supposed to be doing on a Sunday morning. And I don't know if we're right or wrong. That's not a decision. I know what I believe from reading the Bible. God says for us to speak to Him, to be with Him. Jesus Christ says that we are to fellowship together. And the Bible says, do not fear. And I don't. This doesn't bother me a bit, but I worry about what men are doing to men now. I fear the outcome of man taking control. I fear the results of millions of people maybe going hungry. I fear the results of millions of people maybe losing their homes, because those are things that cause upheaval, and none of it's necessary right now. I'd just like to close with a prayer. Dear God, I pray that you will always remain in charge, that you who created the entire universe, the earth, and every single one of us who has been on it, are on it, or will be on it, will come to trust in you and to know you, to believe that you will guide us to do the right things. I believe that this is an opportunity to try and live the life of your Son, Jesus Christ, to pray to you, to help the poor, to love our neighbors, to be all that we can be in demonstrating our love for you and our love for your Son, Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray.